Today I'd like to have a little chat with you about syntropy. Syntropy is a really interesting subject because it brings together the fabric of time and space together in a format that we find it really difficult to understand because we don't appear to live in a syntropic situation. But the fact that we are and do brings about realizations about time and how we spend time, how we feel about time, how we feel about our lives. So there are implications in syntropy that really go very deeply into the human psyche. Syntropy is a bit like a featherbed system, a hammock, if you like, hammock of time, which is a bit bizarre because what we experience essentially is our going through time from the present to the future, and that's it. We just experience this entropic process of in one direction, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case because you could see just how Heath Robertson my flip chart really is now. It's this, but that's quite neat really because it involves making it present, if you like. Right, syntropy is all about the present, essentially. Effectively, our version of the present is like standing right in the middle of two train tracks, and one oncoming train is the future, and the other oncoming train is the past. And it doesn't really matter which way you turn, those oncoming trains are endless. They're infinite. They just keep going. There is no end to the trains crossing. So where we are, where we're standing in the middle of these two tracks, essentially makes our present. And I just wanted to explain a little bit about how this works. So these two feather formats here are the two waves of time coming together. Let's say that this one is the forward in time wave, and it's coming to a point, an option, that it's going to go in that direction. The other probability is echoed in this little kind of flash here. There are always options at any moment in time as to where something is going to end up. Always. It's never a definitive that there is only one place that it can possibly go. There is always more than one option. Now we've got the opposite train coming along in its tracks. And that too has a variable. So let's say we're turning around and looking at the past. So we're looking at the past coming towards us. Okay, I know it's hard to imagine, but just imagine the past coming towards you for a moment, and you can see options that might have happened. Sometimes you can dwell on those, and that's not really a good idea because it just leads you to a mess, train wreck. So now it's the day after yesterday when I recorded the other bit, and I've walked the dog. I haven't put any makeup on, so I'm just like, this is daytime. This is Uncle Fester. This is the Uncle Fester version of me. And I've revisited for reasons that I'm going to explain now. There are optional possibilities that could occur given a change of perspective on that prior timeline. This point is where the present actually exists. So given that we can choose to change the future in some minuscule way by the things that we do, I'm sitting here doing this video with you, so maybe this is changing something. But I decided to do it, and I decided to draw this on the board a few minutes ago because it just seemed like a good idea. But it's a change that I made in my reality and brought to this situation now. I had no idea I was going to be sitting here in front of technology that essentially didn't exist then. There were no such things as these laptop things, monitors like this, cameras and microphones sitting on top of them. It didn't exist. So to be able to foresee that is it depends how far your imagination wants to stretch. But essentially this point of present is a suspension. It's a suspension of disbelief moment. Did yesterday cause me to jump on here again today, or did this cause what happened yesterday to happen? Because yesterday the corner of the paper ripped, so I had to take it down and start again. So why was that? In redrawing this little lot, you've got the little ball of fire there, the annihilation process that you're familiar with now. And this featherbed effect of suspension, the time reversals that are going on continuously. So the present isn't anything other than the present. And yet there's a caveat in there, because it seems that every present has to be different from every other present. And therein does there not lie some hint of the uncertainty principle? I'll throw that bit in there when I do the editing, which I haven't done yet, of course. And this is a wrap-up of that Feynman's diagram. There's the positron, there's the electron negatively charged, and they're doing strange things with time, aren't they? I forgot to put that bit in. So this one is going backwards in time, this one is going forwards in time. Well, this antiquark here, which is produced by the photon, apparently the photon turns into a quark and an antiquark, while the quark goes forwards. So what is our real relationship with a photon? Whenever we look at an event that's happened, we suspend our disbelief. You may have heard the term suspension of disbelief before, because it's very often used in the film industry. If you're watching a drama or a film, you're in there. Your disbelief in it is suspended because the acting is good and the sets are good and the effects are good. So you're believing what you're seeing, even if it's only for an hour and a half. And that essentially is suspension of disbelief. That's what's happening. So if we look at it in terms of our present, then we've got this continuous suspension of disbelief going on. Our perception of what's happened may or may not change. But whether it does or not, it's still our perception of what happened. So our own personal suspension still exists. It's almost like the suspension itself is the constant. There are other videos that cover various other aspects of this kind of ground, so feel free to rummage around in them. You've got the same arrow of time converging kind of format, but in a straight line. And what these lines are cutting through are the waves of probability. Every moment there is a well of probability created by an electron, and there are countless electrons making up one strand of hair. So electrons are just like unfathomable. But they are continuously creating probability wells in which to become, whether they're at ground state or whether they're up or an excited state, is changing all the time across the whole spectrum of everything that you can see around you on countless. How do you count the electrons? Because how we travel through time as it exists is really, in the real term, I think more important than whether or not we can time travel using the speed of light, breaking the speed of light barrier. Wouldn't it be great if we used time more effectively by appreciating how it works and how we can really utilize the way it works to our own benefit? That's exciting. We could do loads more with our time if we could actually kind of concentrate on this element for a little while. Well, our timeline is converging. It's also moving through all these probability waves, as I said, which could even be construed as being brains of the multiverse. Talked about the multiverse in previous videos. Anytime you see lines like slices of toast in a diagonal format on one of these flip charts, I've talked about the multiverse and how it's formed as best we know. So if all these possibilities occur in a different slice of the multiverse, then our time frame is essentially just zipping through without our knowing. We would have no comprehension of the splitting of our universal presence, where we are present in any number of variables across the multiverse that are simultaneously existing concurrently at the same time as this one. So while we've got this movement going on that we're actually travelling through, we may find ourselves quelled in terms of anxiety. We might find ourselves more easily lifting out of a depression, because you can change where you are more easily if you have a grasp of how time works on this quantum level. These suspension of disbelief moments that we have as a reality, that's the very reason why we question reality so much, isn't it? Isn't that the reason why we're wondering whether it's matrix or simulation or holographic universe or whatever? We're searching and hunting for theories of everything that combine our understanding of the macro versus the micro. And we're all on this journey really in order to be able to improve our own progress. So the more we get familiar with the way the quantum world works, the better a chance we stand, really, I think, of being able to encompass reality, embrace reality, do things with reality that we otherwise are unable to do, or think we're unable to do, because we're limited by worries and fears of what might be and what has been, and that always and never thing that creeps into negative thinking. In fact, when you're feeling positive, you think differently. You realise that everything is temporary, and it's just a skip across the waveform. Everything is a waveform. However fast or slow it's going, that is what we exist in, a waveform. None of them might exist by the time you watch this video. So just in case that's the case, I just thought I'd say, have fun with quantum, enjoy yourself wherever you are, whatever you're doing with it. And I've added causality and retro-causality to the mix as a reference point for your further investigations. So have fun with quantum. Bye.